Hi, this is Don Mays from Macedon, and this is another SAP Business One Boyum video. In this video, we'll talk about collecting data from a manufacturing shop floor and how a Boyum Universal Function File Import, or UFFI, can assist with processing of data from the floor. Let's assume your shop floor is set up in work centers that are roughly equivalent to the stages that you can enter on a production order in SAP Business One. Let's further assume you are using SAP Business One resources within the production order to collect labor at each stage in the production. At a workbench, aka a stage in the PDO, the employee uses their barcoded badge to clock on and clock off the PDO at the stage they are working on. They also use inventory within the work center to assemble or process the current stage of work. An SAP Business One issue to production scanned at this work center relieves the on-hand of inventory consumed. This inventory could be batch controlled within SAP Business One, necessitating the capture of the batch number. To accomplish this data capture, the prerequisites are: number one, a barcoded production order form showing the stages of the production order, the items that need to be manually relieved from inventory as manufacturing occurs, at least a partial list of batch numbers so that we can know what batch numbers to issue against the production order, and a resource barcoded operations so that we can record the labor. Then you also will need the employees' barcoded badges in order to be able to clock on and clock off a production order. Thirdly, we need a connection to SQL from the work center. So the connection could be with a PC, a tablet, or a handheld scanner. If using a PC or a tablet, then a keyboard interrupt scanner is required so that you can scan the barcodes and not have to enter everything manually. A program that accepts scans is the fourth thing that's required. Either that is going to be from a handheld device that you have developed the software for, or in our case, we're going to show you today the software developed by Macedon that accepts issues to production processes and receipts from production processes. So the video is going to show the following. It's going to show, one, a sample production order done in SAP Business One with 3 stages. And the stages have items that need to be manually issued to production. Some of the items will be batch controlled. Then we will show you the 4-page barcoded production order that is written in SQL, and you could obviously modify that. Then there's also a scan entry program, Macedon's, that accepts scans from each work center. This scan entry program posts data to a Macedon SQL database, not an SAP Business One database, so that we keep away from any problems with SAP saying we're not being legal. In addition, we need to scan the employees' badge numbers, clocking on and clocking off a resource / operation. And we need to be able to calculate that time as well. How long did it take to do that? And then we're going to have a scanning of an issue to PDO so that we have the items, whether they're batch controlled or non-batch controlled. We're going to scan those in. And then we're going to go and actually do a receipt from production of the items being manufactured on the PDO. So this is what we will show in the video, and let's get started. Okay, here is a production order. It's production order 179. As you can see, we have multiple routing stages for prep, assembly 1, and assembly 2. Each one of those has a resource like assembly or assembly technician in order to record labor. There are a number of parts that need to be issued at each one of the stages. Some of them are batch controlled, some of them are not. as a for instance, here's part 2100, not batch controlled. We have plenty of inventory on hand in order to actually produce the 20 up here that we need. If we look at this part, SP, we see that it is batch controlled. And again, we have plenty of inventory on hand. And in this case, if we wanted to see what batch numbers we could use, we'd have to go to this screen and we can see the batch numbers that are available. If we click on the preview for the production order 179, I've got it page breaking by stage. You can see that we have a barcode for the production order. We have a barcode to complete a production order, and each one of the lines has a barcode. I've also made this in green so that you recognize that as an assembly labor transaction, not a issue. If we look at the one that has batch control on it, I printed a couple batches in here. And this would have to be a variable that you might have in your program. I've also put this in red so that you know that this line 5 is batch controlled. Then I have another batch control part, and it's got a whole bunch of batches. I've also got this part in blue without any barcode, and that's because it does not need to be manually issued. It is backflushed as the final stage is completed. Okay, so we're starting the recording of the production at the on the shop floor. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to clock onto the job. So we're going to scan the PDO on the page 1, and then we're going to clock on to the first assembly labor step. Okay, and then I'm going to clock in by scanning my badge number, and then I'm going to hit the complete scan at the bottom of the screen. Let's review what occurred when I saved that last scan and I closed out the transaction. First thing it did is in this import UFFI directory, it created a scanned PDO file with an extension and everything on here. It's an XML file, which basically said, here's what I'm doing. I am, it's from the scans program. I got part 2100, line 0, quantity of 6, 25-3-13, quantity of 6. The assembly, the clock off compared to the clock on, figured out that it was 0.22 hours from clock on to clock off, and it said this transaction needs 0.22 hours. Then it created the issues to production for order 179, and you can see the quantities of 6 and 6 for these two different parts, the 0.22 hours, and if I double click on here, it gives me the badge number, and it's Bodie, and he's an active employee. So this is what occurred when I did the issues to production transaction, the scans, and posted them. That was all initiated when I clicked on the complete barcode at the bottom of the production order, and that basically triggered a C type of transaction. And in my scan data program, that's a trigger inside of SQL that says go and run a SQL Server agent job, which processes and creates an XML file for the UFFI to import. Okay, so we're starting the recording of the production at the on the shop floor. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to clock onto the job. So we're going to scan the PDO on the page 1, and then we're going to clock on to the first assembly labor step. Okay, and then I'm going to clock in by scanning my badge number, and then I'm going to hit the complete scan at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so now we've clocked onto the job. Now a few minutes later, we're completing the job, at least this stage. So we're going to scan the PDO again. In this case, we're going to go and scan the line for part 2100. And we're going to go and enter in a quantity of 6. And then we will scan line 1. And we'll enter in a quantity of 6 again. Since we are completing this stage, we're going to scan line 2 again, which was now we're going to do the clock off portion. And scan my badge. And then we're going to complete the transaction. Okay, we will now go in and look at what happened inside of SAP for this. So what happens when I complete a transaction? Basically 3 things. First of all, the scans are written to the PDO scans database, the scan data table, and this is done each time a scan is done. So if you scan the work order, if you scan the badge, that creates a transaction in the scan data file. Then there is a trigger in the scan data table that is looking for a complete transaction, which starts with a C. And once it finds one of those, it calls a SQL Server job. The SQL Server job then interprets the scan data and writes an XML data file that can be read by the Boyum UFFI. The XML file itself is written to the Boyum UFFI's work file. And on a schedule basis, the Boyum UFFI to import the PDO issues is run, and you define what the schedule is. Running the UFFI imports the PDO issues for materials and labor. There is a second UFFI that does the same work for the receipts from production. From our previous example, where we scanned 6 of part 2100 and another 6 of 2500-13, this is the issues of production that you will see. It shows the 6 for each one of them, all on production order 179, and it calculated the clock on, clock off difference in time was 0.22. And then there's an employee badge this is the employee badge that we had scanned, and if we double click on that, we can see that this is the employee's name and that he's an active employee. The last step in a production order is to record how many we have manufactured. When we do this, we need to do, from the scan entry screen, we need to check the completed quantity because we're no longer doing an issues to PDO. Then we would scan the PDO. We would enter a quantity. Let's say we've created 2, and then we would scan complete. So that's the scan entry portion. The Boyum UFFI has created a receipts from production. I brought this up. It's for 179. It's for completed quantity of 2 pieces. And down in here, and I didn't point it out for the other issues production, but we keep track of the date and time and the file that we imported so that you can see exactly where the data came from, and you can go back in and look at the directories to find the information. We've shown you the UFFI and how it can operate, and we've also shown you our scan entry program. Just to give you some idea, for the development of this PDO import, roughly a quarter of my time was spent on development of the UFFI. That was not the major part of this. Half of my time was spent doing the scan entry program and getting it to be as concise and simple as possible. And the last quarter of my time was spent reviewing documentation and getting it to coincide with what was actually programmed. As you can see from this slide, we're providing a number of things. It's roughly a 50-page Word document with all the processes defined, including simple things like how do you get a Zebra interrupt scanner to automatically put in a carriage return, so when you scan a production order as an example, that it automatically hits the return key. Some of the things like that are important. I also provide, when you would get this product, you would get the source and compiled source code for our scan entry program. You can do what you want with it. You can use your own, for that matter. The key thing for the UFFI, we need to get an XML file to the UFFI that matches what a issues to PDO should be, or a receipts from PDO. We also give you the structure for the scan database so that you can maintain this separate from SAP directly. And we also have the SQL Server agent job that actually processes the scans, and that'll be available as well. And there's other Boyum functions other than just the functions for the UFFIs. For instance, there's a barcoded PDO, there's a barcoded badge printer, there's also employee labor reporting, and there's several B1 validations, IPTs, and universal functions that are also included. Thanks for watching this Boyum UFFI video. We're open to your suggestions and any challenges you might have for me. Email me if you want our Word documentation for this Boyum UFFI. Give me a call, send me an email. We're available to chat anytime. Thanks again.